Movies, or the visual culture in general, use animals as an effective tool to convey ideas and create meaning. Observe an animal and you start making certain associations. In this regard, I am fascinated by Tamil filmmaker Mari Selvaraj's use of animal imagery in both his films. Let's take a brief look at it in this video. Mari Selvaraj has told stories about institutionalized caste discrimination, the resistance to it, and a possible emancipation. Though Pariyerumal Perumal and Karnan are the names of his protagonists, these are not stories of lone warriors, but it rather captures a hero's journey who is haunted by the same shadow of oppression that has chained his community for more than a millennia. As we all know, in this so-called modern Indian or Tamil society, who a person is determined by where he is from. Still, this is just the what, the subject. The key to appreciating the filmmaker's works lies in perceiving the how, the method of execution. And one such striking visual aspect that brings more emotional eloquence and depth to his narratives is his use of animal imagery. Of course, Mari Selvaraj has only made 2 films and it is too early to lionize his craft. Yet, alongside Pa Ranjith and Vetrimaran, he has brought a renaissance of sorts to the Tamil film culture. In general, an animal on screen can be an effective symbolic element as well as provide an aesthetic potential to elicit strong emotional response. Karuppi, the beloved hunting dog of protagonist Pariyan, plays both these roles. Karuppi's death, preceded by the shrill of a train, makes us realize how cruel the world can be. She is killed to simply teach a lesson to Pariyan and his socially oppressed community. In fact, such cunning creatures walk in Pariyan's world wearing different human face masks. A girl wearing a red coat in Schindler's List represented the death of innocence and humankind's brutality. Here, apart from highlighting the death of innocence and love, the image of Karuppi, left to die in the tracks, also foreshadows Pariyan's possible fate. But Mari Selvaraj isn't the kind of filmmaker who documents reality with despondency. He is a storyteller who follows the familiar yet powerful trajectory of the hero's awakening and his eventual resistance. Hence, when Pariyan is at the crossroads in his life, Karuppi comes back, not as a hallucination, but as a spirit, to guide Pariyan, in order to make himself ask the toughest question. In this darkly fascinating song that sort of unfolds in Pariyan's troubled emotional landscape, we see a set of animals. Why? Do they represent this low social status imposed upon people in the name of caste? These are definitely vulnerable creatures that try to evade the reach of the larger beings. The larger message of this song to the Parians of our inhumane society is to free yourself from the mental restraints, then resist, reassert, and reclaim. And how beautifully this message of empowerment and emancipation is expressed through the powerful reimagining of Karuppi. Samuel Fuller's White Dog represented the disease of deep-rooted racism. Coated in blue, Karuppi reminds us of the struggle and defiance against the toxicity of casteism. The hound for the hounded. Moreover, never has there been a color in cinema which carries such social significance. Parian, of course, faces more hardships from then on, and there is more touching realizations. But even when everything is doomed, there is always the spirit of Karuppi to look after him. The narrative canvas only got bigger in Karnan, and so does Mari Selvaraj's ability to incorporate emotional depth through uncanny juxtapositions. The train is the harbinger of death in Pariyerumal Perumal. In Karnan, which is set a decade earlier than the events in Pariyan's life, buses don't stop in the village of Podiyankulam. The villages are cursed to stay hidden from the rest of the world. This creates a stasis in people's lives. Animals are socially, culturally, and economically intertwined with the lives of the villagers. In fact, there are plenty of frames in Karnan that's populated with animals, irrespective of its symbolic annotation. Mari Selvaraj himself has grown up in such an environment. But right from the opening frame of crows that forebodes death, the director brilliantly enhances his storytelling method through the animal imagery. Nature has a certain order. In other words, hierarchy and cruelty is part of nature. This chick caught by the eagle can't retaliate. Similarly, Karnan is warned that, like this thieving eagle that snatched the chick, his life could also be crushed by the forces above. The caste and power chain thrives thanks to the dogma of predestination. However, Karnan knows human existence doesn't have to mirror the laws of nature or jungle. In fact, the larger society likes to reiterate that Karnan and his people are part of the jungle and wants them to be like the earthworms, snails, the little fish, or the domesticated animals. Hence, the sight of Karnan crossing the road on an elephant with a joyous crowd of villagers disrupts not just the traffic, but the hegemonic mindset. There is also this cool symbolic reference to a character's name, in this case, Yama. Perhaps the memorable and recurrent motif in Karnan is that of a donkey and a horse. The sight of a hopping donkey whose four legs are tied could represent Karnan and his community. Earlier, he is told that it's normal. When it comes to donkey imagery, movie lovers could naturally be reminded of an important film which perceives society's nature through humans' treatment of an all-observing beast of burden. The French master's work also inspired a Tamil language film made by a great Malayalam filmmaker. In Mari Selvaraj's film, the donkey's unease is equated with Karnan's subjugation. And the moment he perfectly realizes that there is not much difference between the donkey and himself, the inevitable happens. In this perfectly calibrated scene, at the end of the first half, we see a lot of shots of human legs juxtaposed with the donkey's tied forelegs. The legs of the villagers move freely, unlike that of the donkey. Alas, the legs take them round and round to witness the same discrimination that's enforced again and again under different circumstances. But a small stone can shatter the status quo. It's said that the knot could be undone only by the one who fastened it in the first place. Well, at times things need to be ripped apart to gain freedom, or at least to be heard. Still, in the early portions of the movie's later half, despite the small uprising and showcase of righteous anger, the filmmaker focuses on the community's fragility when the powers that be casually unfurls its savagery. This poignant cut speaks volume of the sorrowful social reality. The galloping donkey could represent the beginning of Karnan's fierce march towards liberation. However, it takes time for the horse in the narrative to realize its full potential. Horses often emphasize as well as lead to a mythologized hero's mobility and triumph. But the only horse in Pariyerumal, which belongs to a little boy, serves no purpose. It's just another silent, voiceless observer. Though the sound of its neighing at a crucial moment brings to surface the buried emotional torment of Karnan's family. The galloping horse in the final sequence can evoke many readings or interpretations. Some can simply dismiss the moment as superheroic, but in a war against a social injustice, a warrior seated on a horse is naturally expected. Moreover, doesn't Mari Selvaraj's hero riding a horse annihilate certain dogmas in this caste-crazy society? And in this image of a boy who stumbles, falls, and then firmly seats upon the horse, we witness the surefire resistance against inhumanity. From the hopping donkey to the galloping horse, or from the one who runs about throwing stones to the one who does, the collective quest for liberation and rebellion is set ablaze. Karnan might have opened with the image of crows, but it ends with the visual of fireflies. Now a bright light glows inside all these liberated souls. One might ask, doesn't this image system or association seems too obvious? Maybe, but is it effective? My answer is a resounding yes. Well, I think this is how a politically engaged mainstream cinema combating the status quo looks like. Thanks for watching.